Welcome back, episode 12 of the Pixel Platformer here. First thing first, we're going to be using this. We're going to be creating some level UI now instead of just our menu screen. I'm just going to make a quick prefab here, put it in our prefabs folders of our start button. We're going to utilize that in a little bit here coming up. But first, now I'm going to move into the scene of our most recent level version, which is episode 12 for me. And in here now, what we're going to be doing is, let's clear that off because that's bothering me. We're going to be creating some level UI. So we're going to right click and we're going to go to UI and we're going to create a canvas. We're going to allow this to overlay over the screen. We're going to call this level UI. And we're going to do a number of things with this UI, but first thing, we're going to create some type of congratulations when we make to the top. Now, I modified my player to put it at the top of my level for testing purposes, and right now we have our fireworks display. Once I get up here, yay, everything's wonderful, and we've completed the level, but nothing happens. So let's create some UI that turns on and start to control this game from more of a meta level. Okay, so in our level UI, what we're going to be adding here is, let's have it on screen. We're going to right click and we're going to add a UI panel is what I like to do. You could use an image, but I'm going to use panel here, which you could bring in a source image for that. For me, this is going to be our windscreen that pops up. Okay, so I'm going to call that the windscreen, and I'm just going to change this. I kind of like a lighter gray. A darker gray there, and modify the transparency a little bit. And then what we'll have also now is I'm going to modify the size of this. So we're going to just bring this down a bit on each, and that should be big enough right there. And now on here, I'm going to be adding my a TextMesh Pro text object. Okay, so I'm going to add that there. And this is going to be our WinText. So we'll call it WinText for now. Let's go choose our favorite font that I've been using here, which is Joystick. And we're going to be typing in here shortly, but I need to make this text box quite a bit bigger. So let's zoom in here, and we're going to make it bigger on that side. And I'm just going to use this to make it the same size as the actual text box, as the panel. So I'm just using, I hold Alt there, and then I can stretch it across my anchor here. And so now let's go to my WinText, and I'm going to just center the alignment there and there. And what do we want to say? Let's keep it really simple and say, well done. Enter. You made it to the top. What are you going to do next? So something really simple. Well done, you made it to the top, and we'll just keep it at that for now. We're going to bump this size up here so it's a little bit easier to read. Oh, that's way too much, way too much. Let's go right about there. Yeah, right about there. I'm going to bring this text up a little bit to the top, and we're going to add some buttons. So this is that prefab that I created, because now once this pops up, we want a couple buttons here to go back to the main menu or quit the application. So we're going to go to my prefabs here, and there's my button. I'm going to drag that onto my windscreen here. And there we go. It's ready to go. We got to do a few things though. So this first button, I'm going to be renaming this. This is going to be my main menu, my main menu button. Okay. And then, so let's go in there and modify that text to match. So we're going to call this main menu. There we go. I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger as well. So we're going to grab, let's modify the size here. Main menu, there's that button. Okay, with the text. And then I'm also going to duplicate that, and we're going to call this one just my quit. And the quit, I'm just going to move that down below, and maybe I'll make this one a little bit smaller. Okay, and we'll change that text to match. So we'll go into my quit under the children there and change that to just quit. Okay, So there's our two buttons. Right now, they're not going to do anything. We don't have an event attached to either of these right now. We're going to be using the same code we created, but we're going to modify it a little bit. So just to test this right now so we can see what it looks like, if I press play, this panel is already going to be turned on, so we're going to be modifying that with code 2, but now you can see the menu pops up and I can hover over these. I might change the transparency a little bit on that panel, make it a bit darker for a better contrast. So let's go and do that really quick. I'm just going to make that a little bit darker, and we'll bump up the transparency just a bit. Bring that down. Yeah, I think that'll look good right there. Okay. Now, what do we need to do next? We need to actually add a function to these buttons. So what I like to do is we can go right to the script we already created before, our menu controller, and I'm going to drag and drop that right onto the level UI. Okay, and with that, now I can use this menu controller to then quickly change what these buttons do. Now the quit is easy. We already have that set up. So now I can go here and grab that controller, go to my function. I can access now my menu controller script and go down and choose quit game. Now, so far I don't have a main menu option. So just to recall, remember in our build settings, I have my main menu scene and my episode that I'm currently in. So let's remove that and let's add the scene that I'm in right now. We're going to take that one out. There we go. So it's called main menu with no spaces, capitals, and I'm going to show you another way to load a new scene. So I'm going to pop open this script here that we just put on there for the menu controller. And since this is a menu controller, we got a start game, quit game. We're going to make another function here, and this is going to be to go to the main menu scene. So we're going to just call this main menu. And this time we're going to be using this same line of code, scene manager. But I'll show you another way. Instead of using the index, I could put in 0, but we could also put in the exact text of that scene. So now that'll take us to the main menu, and this is going to be good to go. All we got to do is back in Unity, we're going to go to our main menu button and add that function on click event. So once this reloads, I'm going to go back to here on the main menu, head down. I'm going to drag my level UI game object and choose my menu controller, and now we should have, there it is, my main menu button. Let's just give this a quick test to make sure our buttons are working. Again, the quit won't do anything because we are in test mode. We could do a debug.log to make sure that's working, but if I hover over main menu and click that, it takes me to the menu. I can go back to start game, brings me back to where I was, and quit won't do anything yet. Okay, perfect. Now, I only want this to turn on when we get to the end game, and what we're actually going to start to create is something a little more meta for our game, and that is the game manager. So I'm going to right click, create empty, and I'm going to call that game manager. Okay, in the game manager, a game manager is used to kind of manage all your scripts, and it can be accessing information. It usually is controlling what's enabled and what's disabled, so we can choose to control quite a few things with our game manager. And with a game manager, we're going to create a game manager script. Okay. We're going to add and create that game manager script. Now in this game manager script, we're going to be doing a few things. And all of our scripts are going to be, this is kind of like the town hall where all of our other scripts will be talking to the game manager, and the game manager is easy to access from all of them. So this is where I want kind of the more meta functionality happening. So this win level, on our level UI, this win screen, I want to disable it. I don't want to see it until we collide here. So we're going to need to do a few things. So how are we going to do this? Well, it's not too hard at all. What we're going to do is we're going to create a custom method in our game manager script. So here's our, oh, that's not our game manager. Let's go back. Here's our game manager script right here. And in our game manager, I'm going to just delete all of that there. I don't need any of this the start and the update function. And we're going to create a public game object reference, and this is going to be our win level UI. Okay. And then I'm going to create a custom method. So Game Manager usually is just filled with a lot of custom methods. I'm going to make them public void, and this is going to be win level. So this is when we actually win. This is where we're going to be controlling a lot of different things. For now, we're going to do something really simple. We're going to take our win level UI, and I'm going to set it to active. Okay, set active to true. That's all we're going to do here. Okay, now let's go back into Unity. Once it reloads the scripts. Almost there. There we go. And we're going to go and take this and access my game manager, and I'm going to drag that win screen right onto there for my win level UI, and I'm going to now deactivate it. Okay, so now all I need to do is call that method in my game manager right here, the win level, and it will turn it on. Well, where am I going to do that? The place that makes the most sense is in my win level trigger. I've already created this win level trigger script here that activates my fireworks particle system. So now I'm going to access the game manager. Now there's a few different ways to access the game manager, and I could simply call this game manager and then do it in the inspector. But I thought maybe now would be a good time to show you how to assign the game manager without using the inspector. So I'm going to use the void start method. Okay, and in the start method, what we can do is I'm going to set this to private, and we're going to use something. We're going to set the game manager this to equal. Now I don't want to use get component. That's what it's saying, but it's not attached to this game object. So I'm going to go game object dot find, and what this allows me to do is I can type in the exact name of the game object, which I put a space in, capital G, game manager, and now it'll find that game object. Then I can go ahead and get the component of that game manager, and the IntelliSense knows that I'm going to get the game manager script now. So now I've set this all up, it's ready to go, and I don't have to assign it in the inspector. Now, of course, down here, when we do our win level effects, we want to now access that game manager method. So now with game manager, and I can press dot, and now I can go to my win level method. So here it is there. Open and close my brackets, and now it'll allow me to basically talk to the game manager script to run whatever code I have in the win level script. I'm going to save this. And let's go back to Unity. And because I've set up my player at the very top here, this should work quite easily. And you'll notice here that I don't have the game manager public. It's going to get assigned automatically within the script because it's going to find it. So game manager is ready to go. And so let's give this a test, and it should set the win screen to active. Let's give it a jump. And there's my screen. Now it comes up, pops up pretty aggressively. We haven't done any animations or anything yet, but this is exactly what I want. I can go back to the main menu, I can go back to start game, and I can do it all over again. So everything's working great. All right, what should we do next? Well, right now we have no central goal other than getting to the top, but it's good to keep some type of a high score. Okay. So how do we want to keep score in this game? Well, one way, there's a few different ways we could do it. We could add a timer that starts that is counting down, and we have to get to the top within a certain amount of seconds or minutes perhaps. We could also do a stopwatch, which would count up, so that's recording how fast or how long it takes us to get to the top of the level. You could create collectibles, like many games have coins or some type of stars, or which that would count towards your score, or a death counter. How many times did you have to respawn before completing the level? Lots of ways to do this to have some type of way to record how well you did for the potential of creating a high score and so on. What we're going to do is we are going to do a stopwatch. match. This is a really simple thing to implement. So I'm going to go back into our UI here, and what I'm going to do, just to keep things a little more consistent, I'm going to turn this back on so I can see it. And I'm actually going to duplicate it here. Now, I'm not going to change a lot. I'm actually just want to get the exact same faded transparency here. So an easy way to do that is I'm going to take my windscreen, I'm going to duplicate it. Okay, I'm going to take my old windscreen, turn that off. On this windscreen, I'm just going to rename it so I know which one's which now. This is going to be my timer, or this is, I guess, technically the stopwatch. Okay, so this stopwatch here, I don't need the buttons, so I'm going to delete those off of it, and I don't need the wind text. All I really wanted was this panel. So now it matches nicely, and I can resize it and move it right where I want to put it. So for me, I want this to be in my top corner here. So I'm just going to resize that further. Let's bring that down, bring that in, and let's move it up a little bit. Right about here is where we're going to put our timer. Okay, and now if I turn on my other UI, you can see these are not overlapping, which is what I want. Okay, so now let's go to my timer, and I'm going to right click on that, and we're going to add a TextMesh Pro game object. So that's going to add this text, and this is going to be my actual timer text. And in here for now, I'm just going to put 0.00 just so we can get a sense of what it looks like. I'm going to zoom in on this panel here, and let's take this text and we're going to expand it, maximize it, hold Alt, and I'm going to stretch that to fill the entire screen. There's my text way up there. So now I'm going to, as usual, center it, and we're going to bump this up. Let's try 300. I think I need to go, oh, let's change our font first, actually. That's important, to the joystick font that we like. Put that up to 300. Let's go a little bit bigger, maybe try 400. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm just going to tweak my panel. See if I should tweak my panel. It is tweaking my text, which I don't really want it to. That's okay. I could pull this off, tweak the size here of this panel, and put this back on and see how that looks. Can't see it now, I think because I gotta allow it to overflow. Oh, where did it go? I think I need to reset. There we go. All right, anyways, I got my timer back where I want it now. I like the size of that. I think that's going to work well for the game. I might need to make it just a tad bigger as the timer gets higher. So let's do that. Make it a tad bit bigger here. And I'll bring down the text size just a bit. Let's maybe go to 350. And this should fit nicely for our timer. Okay, so we got that set up. Feel free to play around with that. You could change the colors too. I'm just going to keep it white. That's a good contrast with this panel. And so now what I want to do is I'm going to change what this time shows in code. And we're going to do that in our game manager. So I'm going to pop into my game manager script again here. Access it here, and we're going to need to add a few things to work with. So first, I'm going to need to access that TextMesh Pro. So we're going to add TextMesh Pro, but right now I'm trying to add it, and oh, it's very smart. It's going to add using TM Pro. We see that right here. We need that for this to work. So TextMesh Pro UGUI, and then we're going to just call that the timer text. So now I'll have access to the text to update it through code. And we're going to create a private float. And this is going to be our elapsed time. Elapsed time float. And that'll default to 0 for now. We're also going to create a public bool. I want it to be public. I want access to it. And that's going to be timer active, because there's going to be times when I don't want the timer to update. So we're going to use that bool to control it. And from there, we should be able to, that's all we need. Yeah. Okay, so what we first need to do is set this to true at the start. So I'm going to just bring up my void start method here, and I'm going to set timer active, but I don't want to go false. I'm going to set it to true. Okay, and then I'm going to need the sorry, I need to get out of there. Let's move down, and we're going to bring back the update function. So let's go void update, bring that update function, and what we're going to need to do here is first check if the timer is active. So we're going to go if timer active. So if that returns true, we're going to update the timer. And this is really easy to do. We're going to take the elapsed time, and we're going to set that equal to the elapsed time, whatever it is currently, and add on time.delta time. Remember, that was the time difference between each frame. So it's every frame it's going to be updating this timer. And so that time's going to update now. To show you another way to code that, often if we're taking a value and just adding onto it, you could go plus equals time.delta time. And that would do the exact same thing. It's just a shorter way of coding the same thing. It's just adding on to the same variable. But I'll keep it more clear by leaving it like that. Okay, so that's our timer being updated. And so now we need to update our timer text. Now that doesn't matter whether the timer is active or not. I still want it to update, and that's easy to do. We're going to go timer. What did we call it? Timer text. Dot text, so I'm going to be updating the text of this, and we're going to be making it equal to the elapsed time. Now elapsed time is a float, and I want it to be a text, so we're going to use the method toString, and that's going to be good to go. Now we're going to have a problem here, but I'll show you what that looks like in just 1 second. So I'm going to save that, and let's go back into Unity. On my game manager, I'm going to be referencing the timer text. So we'll see now I need to access that timer text. Let's bring that in right here. And timer is set to false for now. It'll be set to true on start, but you're going to notice something on my timer. It's going to have a lot of decimals. And there it is there. It is updating, but it has all these decimals. Now, there's a lot of ways to change how a float is displayed in a string. The easiest way for what we want to do is an easy command to fit in here, which is just F2, which is going to go to 2 decimal places. Another way I could do this is 0.00. That would do the exact same thing, and so I'll leave it at that. So it's going to go to 100th of a second. If I wanted to only go 1/10 of a second, I could just put 0 there, but let's go to 100th. Actually, that's probably plain. Let's go to 1/10 of a second. Let's try that, save it, and now let's load it up again. And we'll pop back into Unity here. We'll press play. And let's see how many decimal places we have now. And we can see it's only displaying those two, the seconds plus the 1/10 of a second. Okay. And now the timer's still going when I get to the congratulations here, my single little jump that I had to make, and I want it to stop. So we're going to need to change that timer active. That's why we created that bool in the first place. So I'm going to go back. I am going to go with 2 decimal places, so I'm going to add that. But I also want to change this active on this game manager. Now I'm going to go back to our back to where we control this with this trigger. Trigger is where we win our level. So I'm going to open this up, and we can say it's calling the win level script right here is what's happening when we win the game. So back in our game manager, it's going to call this method. So let's go back to the game manager, and in this method we also want to stop our timer. So I'm going to put this right before, and to do that I'm going to go timer timer active. Is that what I called it? Yeah, timer active, and set that equal to false. And that should turn everything off nicely now. So let's go back into Unity, and I'll wait a second or two and then jump into the victory area, the trigger, and it should work just fine. Let's give it a shot. There we go, we've made it. Now we're going to need to fix a few bugs because I can still control my character. I can still run into that and respawn, and I'm back to the beginning of my level. And I can go back to my main menu. I can go back to start game. It does reset my timer, which is nice. But this is a problem that my player can now still respawn and still keep moving. So that's something we're going to need to fix, and that won't be very hard at all. But that's going to conclude our video. We do have a timer here. Everything is working great, and we'll see you in the next video.